Today I want to talk about Captain America, the Red Skull edition, and Captain America, the director's cut. Two films on one disc that actually contains 4 versions of this film. So let's talk about it. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to this review for Captain America. Now this isn't the Chris Evans Captain America film, and there's going to be no comparison of this film to that film. Captain America First Avenger is one of my favourite MCU movies, but today we're talking about Captain America from 1990, that very early Marvel movie that is much maligned, much hated. It's a very cheap film. It's a film that I actually own a couple of times because I have a German version there that I imported. Plus I have a DVD there which contains that film plus Captain America 1 and 2, the TV movies that were done also. But I found out about this director's cut for the movie and also the Red Skull edition as well. And that's what I'm going to talk about, because I've sat down and I've watched, I've compared. Now, like I said, there are actually 4 versions on this. Okay, so firstly, you get the standard version of the film, which runs at 97 minutes. Okay. Now, the Red Skull edition runs at 112 minutes. So that's 15 minutes longer than the theatrical 97-minute cut. The work print that's on there, there's a work print version that runs at 105 minutes. And a director's cut that runs for 110 minutes. Okay, bit confusing there. 4 different lengths of movie with different stuff in. Now, the Red Skull edition incorporates a lot of what's in the work print and a lot of what's in additional that's in the director's cut, while also omitting stuff from the director's cut, if that kind of makes sense. Okay, so the best version on here, visually speaking, is the director's cut version of the film. But what this version does is it includes several flashback scenes. It opens with Captain America confronting the Red Skull in the castle at the end, and it has flashbacks to events prior when they're kind of having memories of their earlier time. Then it flashes completely back, and then the film progresses to then catch up to where it is at there. Now, as for additional scenes in the film, a lot of it kind of revolves around Captain America when he's kind of trying to find his place back in the world. He's gone and found his ex-love, who's now older, and there's a lot of time spent there, a lot of time around this era or this part of the film, including stuff where he goes and gets a job, at the gym where Sharon works, who's the daughter of his love. It's not Peggy Carter, it's another character, but the daughter is named Sharon. And then he goes and visits the colonel that kind of was his mentor way back when in World War II. He goes and visits him at a kind of retirement home where he's being cared for, but unfortunately he's suffering dementia, this sort of thing. He doesn't actually know who Captain America is. His memory comes and it comes and goes. Captain America comes to realize that he's missed out on a lot in history, a lot of wars, that he wasn't there for these wars, this sort of thing. The actual Red Skull version of this film is a pretty poor fan edit. It's in the sense that the picture quality isn't very good whatsoever. It uses the VHS as a basis and then incorporates scenes from the work print, so the picture quality drops at scenes like that. But the Red Skull edition is the version where there's far more stuff in the film. So you know, the Red Skull edition itself, it has no flashback scenes between Captain America and the Red Skull that is utilised in the director's cut considerably. The original temp music score from the work print is recut to match the to match the work print. A VHS, like I said, was used as base to help better match the quality of the work print, keeping the 4.3 aspect ratio. The director's cut is in proper widescreen. It looks pretty good actually, but still you're looking at a version that is kind of VHS-y in its standard. So, you know, there's a lot to like in this film. There's a lot, you know, for me, this is an enjoyable film. I've never had an issue with this Captain America film. Yes, it's cheap. It doesn't do things right. It's from that era of Marvel movies. But for me, Captain America is probably high up as maybe my second favourite MCU character, or favourite Marvel character after Frank Castle, the Punisher. And I never felt that as a kid about the character. It was only when I grew older and realised the depth of the character and that kind of the romanticism of a man out of time kind of scenario and this sort of a thing, and what that means, and bringing those ideals from that era into today. It's that stuff about the character that I really like. And although this film doesn't really touch on it too much, you know, it's an enjoyable watch. Matt Salinger, plastic ears aside, I don't mind him in the role that he plays in this. Ronny Cox is in it as the United States President. And then you've got these scenes that are very much, what am I looking for? You know, convenient. You know, the young boy at the beginning who's wishing to be president, who sees Captain America divert the rocket, is the young boy who grows up to be president. His best friend, played by Ned Beatty as a kid, you know, it's kind of laughable that the child, Ned Beatty, is wearing the same glasses, pencil behind his ear, exactly as he is as an older man. You know, it's that sort of a corny kind of logic in the filmmaking here. The Red Skull, yes, I know the Red Skull in this isn't German, he's Italian, but all that aside, it's a film that I can actually sit down, I can watch and enjoy. Now, I did enjoy the director's cut version of the movie. Yes, it's got less in it than the Red Skull cut. Quite a bit less, because it does take stuff from that work print and put that into there. But it's the best way to watch the film, in the like I said, the Red Skull cut edition isn't the best picture quality. It's much like watching between a VHS and the work print. So, you know, it doesn't look very good. That's the best I can say about it. But there's certain elements, certain scenes in there that are unfortunately not in the director's cut. So it's kind of a mixed match of film on here, and you've got to watch several of them or a couple of them to actually get the best of both, while relying on a lesser version being the director's cut as the primary version on this disc. Yeah, that is unfortunate, but you know, it is what it is. Like I said, you know, this was done for me. This is a bootleg. It's the only way that I could actually get to see it. These have not been released, or this hasn't been released officially. The director's cut, I believe, has recently been given an American release, but not the Red Skull edition, which is obviously the longest one of the lot. But yeah, it's an interesting watch, and for a film that I do actually enjoy and can go back to every few years, and I don't think it's a terrible movie for what it delivers, for what it is. I have a lot of fun with it, but that's because I like the character. But yeah, so that's it really. You know, I'm glad that I've got that, or both them versions now, that I can sort of go back to and look at. And it'll be the director's cut that I probably watch the most now, as it is. I do feel like I should give you a breakdown of more of these sort of scenes that are added back into the Red Skull edition. And like I said, where the director's cut has these flashbacks at the beginning and throughout the film, these are not utilised in the work print edition. There's extended dialogue between Steve Rogers and Bernie at the docks before Steve is sent off on his secret mission. While in Nazi territory, after Captain America parachutes down into Nazi territory, he lands in the forest and is met by two Ally spies, a male and female, who proceed to show him the way to the enemy base. They are ambushed by Nazis who kill the two spies before Cap finishes them all off. Cap then holds the dying female spy in his arms and is reminded of his girlfriend Bernie back in the United States. Now, this scene here was implied in the standard cut that Captain America would meet two spies when he lands down on the ground. The Environmental Summit extended dialogue is in news coverage of President Tom Kimball speaking on the upcoming summit. Then we get an extra shot of General Fleming prior to Kimball walking in, an extended dialogue between General Fleming and the President. I Am Red Skull. The scene explores the character of the Red Skull more, and it attempts to make him look much more like a tragic figure haunted by his painful past in the 1990s, as Steve Rogers is reviewing the deaths of Martin Luther King and John Kennedy, realising that Red Skull is to blame. The Red Skull was shown weeping over the piano scene at the end of the film, reliving the visitation of the Italian army storming into his house, shooting his family and kidnapping him for their experiments. The scene shows that the Red Skull genuinely hates who he has become. And there's additional scenes of Steve Rogers that are recut differently in both the work print A and B. Who am I? Steve's still feeling lost in the new timeline, which is why he tries to find himself. Steve visits Colonel Lewis, as we've already mentioned, his mentor. And as I said, that stuff is there. Colonel Lewis takes a trip down memory lane for a moment, and Steve talks about how he failed his mission, that he didn't feel well as Captain America because of that. Then Lewis enters a trance again. Colonel Lewis can't recall Captain America being right in front of him. Steve returns the newspaper and says goodbye. As I said, he's suffering with a form of dementia. Back at home, Sarah arrives and Steve claims to be looking for a job. Subsequently, a shot of him working at their gym, as I already said. And then there's additional stuff as well as the film carries on, bits and pieces here and there, little bits and pieces. So, like I said, a lot of work has gone into it. It's the best version for scenes, but not the best picture quality. For a rewatch, like I said, the director's cut for me.